This first subject is a spray of jonquil flowers. Jonquils are a member of the daffodil family, but instead of a single large bloom, we get a number of smaller blooms with a daffodil-like appearance. They have a very strong fragrance, which I find really great, but some people find it a bit overpowering. Now, they each, as a daffodil does, has this throated section, but it's smaller and shorter, and then they have the petals that come out around the outside. Now, they're a small, relatively delicate flower, and so the challenge drawing them, I think, with a black ink pen is not to have lines that overwhelm the delicacy of the flowers, of the petals. And we also want to capture the petals as well, and particularly these pale cream ones as well. So there's there's at least 3 fully open flowers on this stem, and there's 2 buds, and what's on the far side that we can't see, I don't know. There may well be another bud, or there may be a half-open flower. And so for each of them, I draw the rounded throat section first, and I position those relative to each other. And I also have a look to see how large the petals are and where they have to reach, because I want to basically replicate the proportions of these flowers accurately. And so where there are no gaps between petals of overlapping flowers, I don't want any gaps in my drawing, but I also don't want to have to draw any petals unusually large to fill a space as well. So I'm taking a little care when I draw these petals. This is actually real time, you're seeing. So this is the speed I'm drawing with, paying attention to the reference. And with subjects such as this, with flower subjects such as this, I often look to see where the tip is going to be of the petal, at the pointed tip, and put a mark there. Then I have another look and think, is that right? From that place, can I get the sides of this petal in the right place? If not, I adjust where the tip is going to be. And if there ends up being a dot on the page, it's not going to be nearly as obvious as a misshapen petal. So I'm now doing the first of the buds, and that's just to help fill the space while I position where the throat of the third flower will be. And so I get that throat drawn in and the stamens down in the center of it. As you can see, I've put just a little bit of light hatching in the throats of the earlier 2 jonquils that I've drawn, just to help give a little sense of 3 dimensions. Plus the local color is slightly darker as well. So it just breaks up the absolute bare line effect that I have so far. And now I position these other petals. And some of the petals are coming more or less straight at us, and some of them are bending away from us. So it's good to try and capture that foreshortening where it's there. It's important for giving a sense of reality to flowers to capture the foreshortening of petals when we're looking more side onto them, or even slightly side onto them, rather than full on. And if we don't make an effort to capture it, we won't. So I've now just put a couple more lines for creases in the petals and for a little bit of hatching. I'm trying to work out exactly what I'll do. I decide that I'll err on the side of not doing much at all, and I've got this one further bud to do, and I kind of position where the bud is, and then I take its stem, if you like, its bud stem, back to the place where it needs to go. But if I do the stem first, then the end of the stem may not end up in the right position to do the bud. So it's better to do the more visually significant thing first, and then make the connection of that to whatever point in the drawing it has to connect to. And now I've got the swollen top of the stem where the individual stems for the flowers bunch together, and back into the one stem, a little bit of dried off wrapping of the stem, the outer layer of the cluster of buds when they first formed. And that's pretty much it for these flowers. I just realized I didn't actually draw the one petal that has opened on that lower right bud. I had noticed it when I was just looking at the drawing before I drew it, but I didn't actually notice it when I had the pen in my hand. And so now I want to do some of these leaves. I don't want to draw the spray of jonquils on the right there, the separate stem, simply because I don't have enough time. So I think I'll just get these leaves in the background done, because these long strappy leaves that surround the flower stems are a very characteristic part of jonquils. So I feel like they're a significant part of the composition of the scene and help make clearer exactly what these flowers are if someone's not 100% sure from the actual flowers themselves. Look, I hope you get this photo from my channel community page and have a go drawing it. It is a really nice little subject. It really can be done in just 5 or 10 minutes. As I said, this is 6 minutes, I think, and that's real time. So why not get it and have a go? This second subject is a corner tower of a building in the main street of Interlaken in Switzerland. It's the same town where that clustered lamppost was that we drew a few videos ago. And so the important thing with this is to simply get the proportions right and to position the hat, as I think of it, on the top properly, and to get the proportions of the hat in terms of its height and its width correct for the actual corner tower itself, because the edge of the roof of this corner tower extends far out. It's got a very wide eave surrounding the building. So it's important that we get those proportions right if we want to have this building look as it looks. So this is also real time. You're watching me draw this at the speed it took. It's 6.5 minutes here, but I did, you might have noticed, miss the first minute. So it actually took me just over 7 minutes to draw in real time. So I get these windows done. I'm trying to draw it actual size, and with a 0.3mm pen, that is going to give it a bit of a heavier appearance than it has in life, because it's simply difficult to draw the lines as close as they need to draw to get it same size to represent some of the detail on the windows that I really do feel I need to position. But I get these 3 windows. Notice the one on the right, we only actually see half of the window because it angles away at a greater angle than the window on the left-hand side of the tower. And they're the details that's really important to notice. If we don't observe carefully enough and we do the center window first and then we do the left-hand window, it's easy just to go and do the right-hand window and to show both panes of glass across the width without having realized that we don't actually see both of them because the angle is not the same. So careful observation. Now I'm just drawing enough of the sides of this tower, really so that we can position the roofing element correctly. And then I come down again. It's important to notice that the lower windows are not the same size as the upper windows. They are significantly longer. And these are the details that I often see get missed in drawings. And this is why I'm always saying we need to look twice and draw once. We need to make sure that we've gathered all the information we've seen so that we're drawing what's in the reference and not what we think we've seen in the reference. So now again, the same problem with the windows and a relatively large, a relatively thick pen, thick line to draw the detail at the scale that I'm drawing. So now just doing the darkened, shadowed areas behind the window, behind the glass. Although I'm not planning to really hatch this at all. I'm really just wanting to get the outline. This exercise, this sort of 5 to 10 minute exercise, is really an exercise in proportions, I think. Proportions and angles. And also this the challenge of a less straightforward shape in that hat that sits on top of the tower. So I just wasn't sure exactly how much of this. I probably didn't need to put that downpipe in, but I did. And sometimes it's a bit hard to know where to stop when we just draw a detail such as this. I did draw this scene, or a good part of this scene, for an Instagram live drawing session a couple of years ago. So this is the second time I've drawn this tower freehand with a pen. So just a bit of that lower detail, just to give a little more of a sense of structure. And then I need to tackle this tower. Now, the first thing I did was I positioned where the points of the ribs, if you like, that come down the tower's roof are, where those ribs end up in relation to the windows underneath, which windows they're over, or how far past the window they are. And that's really important, because then I got to look at those and see, are those positions correct. Now, I also have to look to see exactly how these curves go, because the shape that's created is not the same in all of them. And that first rib that I drew should have been 1 millimeter to the left. It just would have worked, I think, perfectly if that had been the case, maybe 2 millimeters to the left. And I'm looking to see what the shape of between each of these ribs is, so that I can create that with my lines. It's where I'm not looking so much at this as form, but looking at it as shape, as two-dimensional shapes, and seeking to recreate them. And I decide just to take another minute and try and give the effect of this very small scallop tiling, terracotta tiling that is on the tower, which is a very nice feature of it. Now, this is another example, an architectural example, of drawing the effect of detail, not drawing the exactness of the detail. And what is important, though, is to get across the sense of the small scale of these tiles. I don't want to start drawing curves that are way bigger than the actual tiles are. I do need to keep them very small, because the size is part of the overall effect of what we look at. And obviously I can't draw them all, so I'm suggesting them and just trying to give enough detail that's clear enough that then the brain, when it looks at it, will see more than is actually drawn. And of course, with foreshortening, as the roof comes towards us, the rows get closer together. G'day, I'm Stephen Travers. I hope you found this architectural exercise an interesting one. As I said, I think it'd be a great little exercise to work on proportion and on shapes. So why not get a copy of this from my channel community page and have a go drawing it. But look, whichever you draw, whatever you draw, in whatever time you draw it, make sure you have fun. And I'll see you next time. Bye.